What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Summertime Rendering. This is episode 8, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
So picking up immediately after the last episode, we find out that the Shadow Ushio, who suddenly appears right behind Shinpei, reveals that she has memories of the previous loop. Now, that's a bit surprising because like none of the other shadows that we've seen like in the previous loops had any knowledge that Shinpei could do something like this.
Well, we already know that she's kind of an exception among the shadows, considering first of all, she believes herself to be human still, and second of all, she doesn't really act with any kind of malice as opposed to all the other shadows.
Yeah, but however, her memory is spotty in some areas. Like she doesn't remember certain things that she's done, which we'll reveal in a little bit. But yeah, it does start a little bit, comedically.
I was going to mention the facial expressions. Like the other episodes have kind of had these crazy facial expressions, but this one just had I feel like it had the most so far out of every other episode I've seen, because it's just like you mentioned, it's a more comedic tone, and then there's just more of these insane changes to especially with Shinpei, his face, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty funny at the same time. I do like how this series does sometimes transition from being really dark and serious to just being really just being really comedic, and it'd be one scene would be really serious, and then it'll just all of a sudden be comedic, but it won't really feel out of place or anything like that. It actually does a good job in transitioning to a more comedic tone, I guess.
Yeah, there was that one scene when all of a sudden Ushio's swimsuit ends up disappearing out of nowhere. And it's just I honestly I don't even know how the shadows really change their appearance and of sorts. We know they always base their appearance of on who they copy at the time, but we just I guess we sort of get a hint of how it works, probably, but it's a bit spotty at some points. But yeah, during this scene, first off, Shinpei does his best to try to hide Ushio from both Mio and her father. So they end up having dinner in Shinpei's room, and there was at one point where first he needed to confirm whether or not that Ushio is a shadow, so he ends up touching her shadow, which does confirm it, and then shortly afterward he tries to kill her at one point, but then decides not to after we find out that there's a flashback scene in this episode which reveals that Shinpei's last meeting with Ushio didn't really end on good terms.
So he just kind of feels obviously he feels bad about killing her. I was actually kind of surprised he even attempted to, but I guess it kind of makes sense if since she is a shadow, but as he should know, I guess at this point she's not really the same as the other shadows. So I actually am surprised he didn't have a lot more hesitation about actually contemplating killing her. But then we also he also points out in the episode that if Nezu and what was it?
Nezu and
Hizuru find out about her, that they would not hesitate to kill her regardless of if she is even if she is different, which we do find out of course later when they do discover her.
Well, speaking of Nezu and Hizuru, they're still I guess they're still positioned outside of waiting for the Shadow Mio to arrive outside the house, which Shinpei told him about. However, the Shadow Mio ends up sneaking into the house where Shinpei and Ushio are staying at, and then of course she all of a sudden she gets in the room and then tries to kill Shinpei, which of course Ushio ends up blocking that attack. However, like, Dororo being a shadow, she doesn't, she doesn't die easily, just, due to the fact that she, I guess in a way she can't be harmed if someone attacks like their physical form of sorts. But then it all changes once Shadow Mio ends up stabbing Ushio's shadow, which I guess she stabbed her in the arm of sorts. Which I thought she was honestly, like, I thought like she would have been dead at that point, because like any fatal hit to a shadow would have been instant death at that point. But it just seems like she just got her arm of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, she just loses her arm. But I mean, she didn't really hit any kind of vital point on her body, so just stabbed her arm. So now she just doesn't have an arm. But yeah, I mean, we've also seen the Shadow Mio, like her main body, or well, her the physical body can get like her head blown off or whatever. Like I think at one point in the episode, like she does get her head blown off, and then she comes back because her main body, which is the shadow, didn't get hit or anything. So she just comes back, and tries to kill Shin. But
yeah, but of course Shin manages. Well, Shin like opens the curtain to let Nezu get an open shot at Shadow Mio, and this gives Shinpei an opening to stab the shadow for good, and then it pretty much kills Shadow Mio, but not before, like, I guess Mio has some weird feelings for Shinpei of sorts.
Yeah,
I don't know
we
if
already knew
anything.
about that. So the shadow is because I think Ushio also says as well, in this episode, again, that she's in love with Shin. So, I mean, we know at this point that both of his, I guess you would say, stepsisters are in love with him. I mean, which is pretty weird to think about, but I guess there's some love triangle with that.
So shortly after this, actually, you know what surprised me? I don't know how this chaos in that room didn't alert
I
Alan
thought
and
about
the
that
real
when
Mio.
I watched the episode. I was wondering how they didn't hear all that. I mean, there was gunshots and then just all the movement. I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine they wouldn't hear that.
Okay, so once Hizuru gets in, she tells Shinpei that Mio's safe, safe in the house, like taking a bath, but you would think it would, like, that whole amount of chaos in that room would have alerted her anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, this also, I think, isn't Hizuru. This is actually Ryunosuke, because I think we have to remember whenever she has her hair tied in a ponytail like that, I guess it's the Ryunosuke personality that's taken over. And then when it comes back, it's Hizuru.
Yeah. So I guess Ryunosuke tried to kill Shadow Ushio, but of course Shinpei stops her from doing so, which initially confuses Ryunosuke, but then she realizes that she got some kind of a phone message from, like, you could say, it's unknown if it's really the real Ushio or if it's like the Shadow Ushio that sent that message, but it's the reason why Hizuru or Ryunosuke arrived at that island in the first. But yeah, so eventually, they agree not to kill Ushio, but of course, Hizuru warns Shinpei that if Ushio gets out of line, then she won't hesitate to kill her. And and then before that, Shinpei notes that that there will be an assassination attempt on Hizuru again. Like, I think if you remember, there was that scene where Hizuru was killed by Shadow Mio up at the shrine. But now that the Shadow Mio's dead, it's possible maybe another Shadow might take her place and try, do something similar.
Oh, also know what I just thought about in regards to Ushio leaving the message for Ryunosuke or Hizuru is that like she in the message she says she warns her about what's going to happen. I think it was on the 24th that all the shadows are going to, I guess, converge at the festival, and the island's going to be taken over by the shadows. But this current version of Ushio doesn't seem to like. I mean, she knows what happened in the previous loop, but when she first met up with Shin again, and I think it was episode 3, or technically, she didn't really seem to know what was about to happen. So I'm wondering when that message was sent. Like if it was sent, like if this is some kind of future version of her that had already been through the loops and she already knows, and she sent it somehow back in time or something. I'm not exactly sure.
Something tells me that this is gonna happen in a future loop.
Yeah,
probably, because if this version of Ushio doesn't remember sending that message, then it's possible that maybe in a future loop that she'll send that message to supposedly to Hizuru or Ryunosuke at a later point in the story. But as of right now, they're like right now they're just moving on trying to figure out what to do before the 24th.
Yeah.
So the next day over, we find if you remember that policeman ended up giving Shinpei Ushio's phone, because the real Ushio entrusted her cell phone to the cop to give to Shinpei. But in the previous loop, Shinpei wasn't able to unlock her phone because he doesn't know the password, nor does he have her fingerprint password to unlock it. But fortunately, with Shadow Ushio being there, she's able to unlock it. But actually before this, they end up meeting with So, who Shinpei of course reveals the Shadow Ushio to him, which of course surprises the guy. But then of course the episode ends abruptly when Ushio unlocks her phone, and then they find a video recording supposedly on the day that she died, and that's where the episode ends, unfortunately.
Yeah, just another cliffhanger. It was a pretty good episode. A lot of it really consisted of Shin just trying to keep Ushio hidden, and then him just kind of trying to bargain with, or trying to get Ryunosuke not to kill her. Still a pretty good episode, but maybe not, I guess, quite as eventful as everything else we've seen so far. But I'm kind of interested as to I guess what they're gonna find in the recording. But that one scene in which Ushio supposedly doesn't remember sending that message to I guess that might be another clue as
to
indicating that it might be a future version of her, and not, because we know that this version of her, she does retain the memory of what happened in the previous loop, but she doesn't remember certain other things that I guess she may or may not have done.
And it's but why is she the only shadow that has this ability to remember this stuff?
Yeah, she seems to be I'm not sure why, she seems to be an exception amongst all of them. But I mean, if you remember in a previous episode, she said that she, when she was dying, she wished she could have seen Shinpei again. So, for some reason, she I wonder if that has to do with why she is an exception, why she and why she even came back in the first place. But I mean, as far as I know, it's still just that alone doesn't really make any sense, though. I mean, we still don't really know exactly how, or at least what the shadows are even trying to do in the first place. And we really only have vague explanations that don't really tell us everything.
Yeah, overall it is a good episode, but it still leaves a lot of questions in regards to Ushio herself, because we don't know why she retains the memories of her original version, why she doesn't harbor any sadistic I don't know tendencies against Shinpei in particular, nor do we know why she even retains the memories of the previous loops, particularly like what happened on the on the festival during the on 24th.
What's interesting to me as well is that the Shadow Mio is isn't anything like the Shadow Ushio, who is also in love with Shinpei. You know, they both are, but the Shadow Mio is still like harbors malice, like she still wants to kill people, and I guess that might not be like one of the reasons, I guess, why Shadow Ushio is the way she is, even though she's in love with Shinpei and might not want to harm him or anything like that. Because in this episode, the Shadow Mio says that she has those same feelings, which would make sense if she's just a copy of the original. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about the episode. Like, I think the main takeaway from this for a lot of people is just going to be the random facial expressions. Like, I was kind of surprised. Like I said, like they have kind of done similar things, like, but it wasn't usually for like comedic purposes. It was more for like a really dramatic or intense scene. Like, we would see their faces shift to this more intense sort of expression. It actually kind of had me wondering, because I know one of the people that I forget what his name was, but one of the animators that worked on Death Note, which is known for its really crazy facial expressions. He's also done work on Attack on Titan, and you can tell sometimes when he's working on something because of the insane facial expressions. It kind of has me wondering if he might have worked on this as well, because it definitely, like, a lot of the expressions I've been seeing remind me a lot of like some of the stuff he would have worked on. Like, Death Note, for instance. It definitely reminded me of that. Like some of the, especially like in the last episode, some of the expressions you'd see from Light. It definitely was reminiscent of that. But
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll see a lot more of these expressions in future episodes. But yeah, as of right now, like I thought like this was an interesting episode, and in developing like Shadow Ushio in particular, like but still leaves us like with a lot of questions in particular. And of course, hopefully we'll get to learn a bit more once we see the record, the actual recording, which will most likely be revealed in the next episode.
Yeah, like there are some things we already know. We know that the Shadow, what was it? Of that one girl was, I guess, responsible for killing Ushio, but we don't really know the full story there. So there's probably more to it than that. So maybe the video will reveal that, or just leave us with more questions. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode. This is probably like I feel like, at least currently, like the best, honestly, like the best series, or the most engaging one, the most interesting one. I've been watching. I know a lot of people are probably going to say something like Spy Family, which I can understand, but I think this one's definitely up there too.
Yeah, it's a shame that like it's still under, like, what would you say, like
Spy Family
under the Disney Plus? Yeah, because like,
I'm kind of afraid. Like, I will say, I'm kind of afraid of what they might do when it does get put on the Disney Plus platform, because I don't really trust Disney not to mess with stuff. Disney has proven in the past that they will go and edit things or change things because they don't like something. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they try to do something like that. So
what also concerns me is how they can handle the subs, because I sort of did mention this before in one of our previous reviews.
Dub even.
Yeah, we don't know like who's gonna be like casted for the dub, but in terms of subs, it's just. I did mention this before.
I do also mentioning the dub real quick. I wanted to point out too, like, if you've noticed, a lot of the characters have like their way of speaking. They seem to have like this southern inflection, like because I guess the region in Japan where this takes place is the southern region or something. So like if you, for instance, I think it was, what is it, like they have like maybe a Kansai dialect, I think it's called, like where they so I'm kind of wondering how they're going to handle that in the dub. Or is everybody going to be speaking with a southern accent, or like are they going to completely
honestly, I don't know how I would feel if they would if they would speak in that accent in the English dub, because it doesn't.
They have done dubs in the past where they would have characters that would, in the Japanese version, they would speak in the Kansai dialect. In the dub, they would speak in the, with a southern accent or something. So I'm kind of wondering if they're going to do that here. I think it would feel a little bit more authentic at least, but I feel like most likely they're going to forego that and they're not even going to try to do anything like that. But I guess we'll have to see. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to say about the episode though.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good episode. Definitely a lot of development in terms of Shadow Ushio, but hopefully we'll get to learn more of what happened to the real Ushio once they reveal the recording. Hopefully by the next episode.
Yeah. But with that all being said, guys, until next time, we will see you all later.